Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Minding My Mental Health. I am Tenitria Williams here with my guest, Karen M. Booth, and we want to just welcome everyone to the show today. You guys, if you've been watching, you know what I want you to do. I want you to hashtag live if you are watching us live and let us know where you're watching from. And if you're watching the replay, you'll know you're watching the replay because you will not see a red box that says live at the top. If you're watching the replay, simply hashtag replay. And again, let me know where you're watching from. Share this video with your friends, your family, tag some people. Karen and I are actually going to take a moment to share this video as well, because we are ready to get into this topic. I think it's a very needed discussion. And so again, we want to just say thank you to everybody who's watching us. And we are going to share to all of our groups and all that fun stuff. Go ahead, tag. Let us know you're here. Let us know you're watching. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to tag a couple people myself. All right. So we're going to give people just a few moments to join us. But again, Karen, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I know it's not easy to share your story, even though it is a story of beauty and triumph. It's not always easy to come and share your story with the world. And so I appreciate you trusting me and this platform with that. And so again, we're just really excited to have you as our guest. I see a couple people jumping on. Go ahead, share, tag people that you know that could benefit from hearing this. This is such an amazing story to hear. And so, Karen, tell us about who you are. Kind of just share with us.
Well, as she said, my name is Karen Booth, and I am currently the minister of music at St. Mark Community Church in Jacksonville, Arkansas. I am married to my college sweetheart, Stephen Booth. I am bonus mom to two beautiful kids, Skylar and Xavier. And I am owner and operator of Karen's Carry-Offs. You may have seen me selling the purses. And I've also gotten back active in promoting my cosmetics company, Unique Products. So I'm a representative for that company as well. Then I got some other things in the works that I'm not really ready to share about. So you'll see some more stuff.
Okay, mogul. So again, Karen, thank you so much. Thank you for being willing to be open about such a heavy topic. And as people can see, we're smiling and we got our happy faces on, but it's a pretty heavy topic that we're going to talk about today. But I want people to hear the journey from the heaviness to the healing.
Okay.
And so let's get into this. So today's topic, if you didn't see the flyer and somebody just tagged you randomly, today's topic, we're talking about healing from sexual abuse. Research shows that 1 in 5 women in the U.S. have been sexually assaulted, whether that was in childhood or as an adult. That's a lot. That's a lot. And honestly, the numbers may be higher than that because so many people don't report about sexual abuse or sexual assault. And so the fact that it's happening so frequently, and the fact that the impact can be so detrimental for people and so impactful in a negative way on so many lives. And so I think it's something that we have to talk about, even though, again, it's not a pretty topic. The impact can be so great. I want people, number one, to be encouraged that there is healing. I want people to have some practical things that they learn how to do to be able to help them on that journey to healing. So as we get started into this, Karen, tell us kind of about your experience with sexual abuse. You don't have to go into the details of what happened, just kind of how old you were, the length of time that abuse happened, that type of stuff.
Okay, so it started when I was 8. and it was a family member. And I guess I can tell this. It was my grandfather. He's gone on to be with the Lord now. Um, but he was keeping me, and it started one day when we were watching TV together, and it continued on until he moved out, which was when I was about 13.
Wow.
So once he left, it was it stopped.
Yeah. So Karen, tell me kind of how you begin to process that, because at 8, you probably knew something was off with that, right? Tell me
Did
how you
not, it
begin
did
to
not
kind of
feel
make sense
normal.
of that.
It did not feel normal. Um, through through therapy, I remember thinking these things, but at the time, I didn't process this as an 8-year-old.
Right.
But I remember thinking what was wrong with me
Mm.
that he decided to do this. Um, and I remember sitting in my classroom one day. This was about the 6th grade, and I remember thinking, God, I wonder does anybody else have to deal with this?
Mm.
I remember thinking that. But the most thing that I remember thinking was that the first time he inappropriately touched me, he said, "You can't tell your daddy because he'll put me out in the streets." And so you don't you tell an 8-year-old that somebody gonna put them out in the streets, and you keep so you just all I knew
So
was I
he
had to
put
keep
that blame or that responsibility
right
on
on.
you, as if you would be hurting him.
Mm-hmm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm. And so he told me, don't tell that this would happen and blah blah. And so I didn't tell, like did not.
Yeah. Can you remember, Karen, were there drastic or even subtle changes in your personality after that, or kind of the way you carried yourself? And I say after, meaning after it started.
Right. So I remember people asking me, was I okay?
Mm.
Because they saw changes. Like I went from, lively and bubbly and blah, blah to, this sad little girl. But what happened in all of this time was so, like, my mom died, my birth mom died when I was 6. My dad remarried my bonus mom when I was 7. And so this started happening when I was 8. And so a lot
Yeah.
of people probably attributed it to, oh, she's been through a lot of changes, which I had, which would probably make any kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I don't really remember like consciously changing my behavior.
Yeah. Okay. But I think that that's a good point, that a lot of people started seeing that. And so if you start to see really dramatic changes in your children, pay attention to that. It's usually not for nothing. There's a reason if you start to see a child that is usually happy or carefree or, vibrant, and they start to change, don't just brush it off to, oh, they're just, having a moment. Pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to those things. And I think that's really important. As we're going through this conversation, we're going to be talking about how people can see some of those signs and being able to notice those things. Um, Tell me how you experience changes in your mental health.
Um, I think probably in about the 6th or 7th grade, I became a super performer. Like
Mm.
like I needed to feel approved of. And so the only thing that I really had, I was in piano lessons and I was in school. So, I had to, on the side of the day, I had to have the hardest song. In school, I had to do the best to always
What were you
be.
trying to prove?
Um, I was probably really seeking approval
Hmm.
and acceptance from the people that were around me, not really realizing that what I was trying to cover up was I was feeling unworthy. I was feeling all these other things. But again, I'm still
Hmm.
just, you know, 11.
Yeah.
So all I know is I want my parents to be like, this is my kid and she is great.
Yeah. You were trying to make them proud. Um, so two traumas really. The
Yeah.
sexual abuse was multiple traumas. I understand that part, but I'm
Yeah.
saying losing your mom
Mhm.
and then having this traumatic thing. How were you even processing losing your mom at such a young age?
Well, I didn't process that till I was grown.
Mm.
Like it was like, she's gone. My dad's remarried. We got to keep on I have these parents that, you got to keep on going no matter what. And so, I think I learned how to just kind of hold everything in,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if I don't say anything, everything will be all right.
Okay, so you were just gonna suppress it all.
All of it.
So how, because I believe when we suppress things, it shows up. Can you look back and say, this is how it was showing up? Maybe I didn't verbalize it, but here are some ways that the things I was suppressing was showing up or coming out.
You're asking me questions and I'm thinking about it for the first time, like now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was probably where my inappropriate relationship with eating came.
Mm. Yeah.
Because I remember starting to have weight struggles probably about the time I was 10.
Yeah.
Because my daddy loves ice cream. I like ice. So we would have like ice cream sandwiches, Eskimo pies, all the things. And I would just, one was never enough. One was never
Mm-hmm.
enough. So my mom would have to be like, hey, Karen, you got to stop. You cannot
Yeah.
have 4 Oreo cookies and an ice cream sandwich. You can't do that. And I'd be like, why? But now that as I'm looking at it, that was probably where I
Mm-hmm.
found whatever measure of comfort
Mm-hmm.
that
So
I was.
just trying to eat it away, or like I said, just allowing yourself to feel comforted through that avenue.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like you had, or maybe even have, a great relationship with your parents. Um, how old were you when you told them about the abuse, and how
Okay.
did they respond?
So I I started talking to my pastor at the time at home,
Mm-hmm.
and he had told me that he said, Karen, you're gonna have to go and I lost the earring. You're gonna have to go and find a professional counselor because this is going beyond
Mm-hmm.
my training.
Shout out to the pastor who knew.
Yeah, and it was actually Smokey Norfolk's daddy was my pastor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so he said, you're gonna this is gone beyond what I've been trying to do. And he said, and you're gonna have to tell your parents.
Mm.
I said, I can't tell them. And he said, oh yeah, you gotta tell them. They gotta know. And so I told him, I asked him, would he tell for me?
Mm.
Because I just didn't think, like, I knew I couldn't at the time. And that was just still the shame, looking
Yeah.
back, it was still the shame. And it was still protecting my dad because I said, would you tell my mama and not my daddy?
Mm.
Because it was his father,
Yeah.
right? And so it was still like, and by this time, my grandfather has transitioned, right? And so I'm still in that little 8-year-old saying, I don't want my daddy to know. I'm sorry, I'm whispering, but it's like I don't want my daddy to know. And so he he honored my request. And so then my mom, she talked to me and she was like, I can't keep this from your daddy.
And you were how old, Karen?
20 something.
Okay.
20 something at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think maybe 24. And I begged her not to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Begged her not to tell. And so she was like, okay. But then some years later, and so she was the one who knew that I was in therapy. I found a counselor, and she was the one who knew I was in therapy and blah, blah, blah. And so she would, periodically, she would ask me, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. But she didn't ever go into, she never asked me any detailed questions. I'd be like,
Yeah.
fine. And then later on, my dad, he became aware because my counselor was like, Karen, you got to get both your parents in here.
Mm.
Dude, really? So I've been in counseling at this point for probably 2 or 3 years. And he was like, yeah, we got to talk about this with both of them. This is part of your healing. This is part of
Yeah.
being able to function. And so I didn't realize it, but breaking of the shame is part of the healing process.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that, because that is one thing that is very, very common when you're talking about people who have experienced sexual abuse. They carry the shame as if they are the people that did something wrong. And obviously, we want to make sure that people understand you are not the
You are not.
problem.
You're not.
You didn't do anything wrong, but um, it's a very heavy burden for them to walk around with, that
It
shame,
is.
and
It is.
oftentimes guilt.
It
Tell
is.
me, if you dealt with any guilt, feeling like you said, I think you even mentioned feeling like it was your fault at times. What made you think something could have been your fault? What was your mindset?
Um, my mother, because at this point we're talking about, my bonus
Mhm.
mom, who is absolutely all 100% my mom. Um, she talked very openly
Mhm.
with me about sexual relations between a man and a woman. I knew, I knew about the birds and the bees very young. Um, because I would ask questions.
Yeah.
And so as a 9 or 10 year old, I think I developed the thought that I should have known better
Mm.
than to let this happen.
Yeah.
And so I carried that I should have known better. I should have stopped it. I should have done something, whatever I thought that an 8-year-old
Right.
child could do versus a grown up. And so I literally was in therapy, and and I told him this because he kept asking me. I'm sure he knew the answer, but he wanted me to say it.
Mhm.
And so he kept asking me, why do you feel this way? And so finally I just was crying and all this stuff. And I said, because I should have known better. And he was like,
There it is.
no, you shouldn't.
Mhm.
No, you should not have. He said the responsible party was the adult in the room.
Right.
The responsible party was the grown person that took advantage of you.
Right.
And literally at 27, 28, no, 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 no. I was older than that. I would start and stop therapy because it would get hard and I would quit.
Mhm. A lot of people do that.
But this particular counselor let me come back every time. So I had the same one all the way.
Mhm.
So I would start and I would stop and I would start and I would stop and I would start. So at this point, I have started for like the 18th time. And at this point, I'm engaged to my husband.
Mm.
And he is in the counseling session with me. And that's when it came out. So I was like 40 when
Wow.
I finally see it because I should have known. And he was like, no, you shouldn't. No,
No.
you shouldn't. And that was like a whole breakthrough for me.
Yeah. That is a breakthrough for a lot of people, because I think they do. And honestly, what I hear often is that I should have known better. I shouldn't have wore that. I should have, done something differently. But like you said, first of all, there's a power dynamic when you're talking about a child and an adult.
Right.
You're talking about the guilt that he had already placed into your head of
Mm-hmm.
something's going to happen to me. And you being a good human being, you don't want something to happen to
Right.
your grandfather, right? And so all of
Right.
those things, when you look at it from an objective standpoint, and if you're watching and you have experienced some shame as a result of sexual abuse, I want you to release yourself from that shame
Please
right
do.
now. Being
Please
able to
do.
say, no, that was not on me. That was on someone who, like Karen said so well, took advantage of you and took advantage of your youth. I have two children, and I often say, sometimes we're getting on to them and I go, they've only been in the world for 9 years.
Right.
They've only existed on this planet for 8 years.
How would they know?
They don't know all of these things, which seem really, really very simple to us. We
Mhm.
don't know these things. And even if you did know those things, if you knew he's not supposed to touch me here or whatever,
Right.
again, we go back to that power dynamic of strength, position, authority, the way you were raised, I'm sure, to respect and honor and obey. Like all of that stuff plays into how a child is receiving that. So it's not just a matter of you should have stopped that. And I need people to understand it's never, ever your fault. So you start breaking free from this shame as you start sharing the story. Um, but then you said, I'm now engaged. How did this impact, this history
Girl.
impact your romantic relationships?
So prior to my being engaged to my husband, um, I would not choose very well. And I think I would subconsciously, on purpose, not choose very well
Mm,
because I didn't know how to handle like a real relationship. If
mm.
that makes sense. Does that make
So you
sense?
would choose emotionally unavailable people.
Every time.
Hmm.
Every time. And it would always, it'd be he's great, he's wonderful, and he's like, he's not great, he's not wonderful. But now because I'm still in this approval seeking cycle,
Right.
so I at this point, why you not married yet? This comes into play.
Mm,
What's wrong with you? Well, I already think something is wrong with me because this happened when I was a child.
right.
So now I've got to make this relationship work every single time. Every single time.
Mm.
Make this relationship work because what's wrong with me? Because I'm not married. So it's that whole
So even though he's not the person, um, and the way you just said that tells me you knew he's not the guy, but I don't want to feel like a failure again. I want this to work out so I can be okay. I'm right. I'm approved.
I'm approved, I'm accepted, I'm loved. Because mind you, I'm in church, but my relationship with God is the typical kind where I accept him, I believe him, and I'm going to heaven, and that's the end of the whole
Mhm.
story. And everything else in between, I got to figure
Yeah.
out.
Okay. That makes sense. So your spirituality wasn't playing a part in your decision making and all of that.
Not at all.
And
No.
you've already talked about how this abuse impacted how you saw yourself. Um, when did things start to shift for you?
So therapy helped immensely. It helped immensely. It helped me to know. It helped me to accept that it wasn't my fault. That it wasn't anything wrong with me, and and that I was okay. But
Mhm.
it also I also made that my story because now I am woman. Hear me roar. I'm a sexual abuse survivor.
Okay, so
So
let's talk because that doesn't sound like a bad thing, right? So
right.
let's talk about how that you go, but it became my story. Talk about that more.
It just became whole identity that I am now loved and accepted because I have made it through and I am not
Mm,
I hate to use this word, but understand that I hate to use this word. I'm going to use it anyway. Okay.
okay.
I am not crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have made it through. I do have to take medication. At this point, I'm on medication. And I had decided that, the medication was the healing that God had provided for me, which, I still have taken from time to time, but, and I'm okay with this and I'm fine and it is great. And then I get into soul shift.
So let me pause for a second and go back. Your medication was for what symptoms?
I had antidepressant medication and I had anxiety
Okay.
medication because
Okay.
at,
So
at this point I had been diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, and depression.
okay. Okay.
So I had all of those. So and my counselor was actually reluctant to prescribe medication,
Mm-hmm.
and because he said, Karen, and I don't know if you've ever told him, but he was like, Karen, your cognitive abilities are so strong that you just may not need medication.
Mm.
And I was like, so what, you think I can think through this? Because I didn't, but
Right.
basically that's what he was saying was that, because like, because I mean, I could recognize when I was going to go into a really depressive state. Like after a
Mhm.
while, I just knew when it was coming.
Right, right. And that's the thing too. I think people don't always understand about trauma. You can have strong cognitive abilities. You can have that. Your body can still respond in a way that prevents you from operating. Again, I've been listening to this book. It keeps your body from operating certain parts of the brain that's needed to make those rational or different types of decisions. And so it's important for people to understand it's not about, oh, you should be smart enough to
Right.
think through this, or you're not. No, your body will literally go back to those types of reactions. So
Mm-hmm.
you said then I joined Soul Shift. So tell us, what is Soul Shift and how did that kind of start to help you? Because the healing process, it sounds like, has already
It's
started, right?
already
But
started.
something else shifted. So talk about that.
Right. So okay, so I got in social money because I was like, I need, to learn how to better handle my funds, right? But then it became unraveling, number one, my story. I was still carrying some shame and some guilt, and I was definitely carrying some unforgiveness, like
Mm,
major unforgiveness. And that's why I talk a lot on my page about, are you carrying unforgiveness? Are you carrying this? Because it will keep you from moving forward in a lot of things in life.
mhm,
And so I started releasing the story because, as you know, soul shift is intentionally aligning your mind, will, emotions, intellect, and imagination with what the word of God says, right? And
mhm,
so instead of clinging to my story as my identity, it taught me how to cling to what the word of God says is my identity. And so that
mm,
over time allowed me to work through, you know, all the guilt, all the shame. And I was even able to fully forgive and release my grandfather.
mm. Karen,
From,
let's stay there for just a minute. You said I was able to kind of shift from releasing my story. How hard was that for you?
oh, Jesus.
Because
Um,
you just said that was a part of your
I
victorious
did.
story. That was the win. Like, I survived. Why and how did you release that being your identity into something different?
I had to learn that what happened to me happened. I, thank God, was able to walk through it without harming myself and come over on the other side victorious. It did not, however, define who
Mm.
I am.
Come on, can you guys put that in the comments? What happened to me does not define who I am. So
And it
you
was
started
hard.
walking through that. Go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry.
I was just saying it was hard to release it because, like, when something is your identity, that's you walk in that. And
Hmm.
so when I realized that there was a time frame in between me realizing that's not me and me accepting that what this Bible says is
Mm,
me. So that space in between those two things, I felt really vulnerable. I felt really naked. I felt
yeah.
like, everybody could just see down
Yeah.
into me. And so it was very, very unnerving.
If
Very,
I'm not that, who am I?
who am I? And that, at let's see, been doing this for 3 years. At 50, 1, 2, you 52 and you don't know who you are. So now you're like, I'm too old to not know who I am.
But that's a vulnerable space.
It's a really strange space to be in.
Yeah. Talk about the power of that vulnerability.
It gave me the place. to, as Coach Sean would say, let God reintroduce me to myself.
Mm.
And I felt okay in letting him do that because I'm kind of a practical thinker. If I'm not this, then what am I? I need you
Mm-hmm.
to tell me. You know, um, I sometimes spend a lot of time on the why of stuff, but basically it was like, okay, so I don't know who I am. I've clearly given myself the wrong identity.
Mm.
So, okay. So the power for me was, allowing Holy Spirit to just pour into me all the things that, or not even pour into me, but to allow me to remember
Mm.
all the things that God had said that I was back when He formed me way back when. And so now all these things that I didn't know I could do, have started, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like I remember one day I was about to watch a movie. And so I'm talking to Holy Spirit. What are we watching on TV? And He says, I want you to watch Taken. And I said, I don't like action movies. And His response was, are you sure? Because at this
Mm.
point, I'm relearning who I
Who
am.
you are.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't watch. And so being tangled up in all of the symptoms of PTSD and blah, 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 I didn't like to watch stuff that was super, super stressful and super, super,
Yeah.
18 explosions in the first 5 minutes. I don't want to watch that. But He said, are you sure? And I said, no, I'm not. So let's watch it. And I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. My husband, who does like for everything to be on fire and blown up in the first 5 seconds, now we can watch these
Mm.
movies together. Because normally he turns something on, I'm not gonna watch that with you. Have a good day. But now we have something else that we can enjoy together.
Wow. So you're going through this process of learning who Karen is, being reintroduced to who you are. How fun is that, Karen? Or how scary is that? Maybe it's not fun at all. I don't know.
Both. It is both. Because I mean, if you sit and you talk with Holy Spirit, He was like, why don't you try this? Like, sir, no. Yeah, we have a whole conversation. And so it's like, you think I could do that? Try. And I try. And I have to release perfectionism, right?
Mhm.
Because when you're in performance, you're also in perfectionism.
Right,
Everything has
right.
to be exactly right. And so you're like, oh, well, it didn't turn out like I thought, but it didn't turn out badly.
Yeah.
So there's some angst and there's some fun and it's a whole mix of things.
So it's an emotional journey of
Yes,
it's just an adventure, it sounds like.
it really is and still is.
I'm on the journey with you. I understand. We keep being reintroduced, right? Uh,
Yes.
Karen, can you tell me what were some major mindset shifts you had to let go of, and what were some major mindset shifts you had to grab a hold of?
So unbeknownst to me, I did have this habit of setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. I
Mm.
would leave my things undone to go do for somebody else. I would, everybody else's progress was way more important than mine. So I had to recognize that I matter too.
Yeah. But you know what, Karen, even as you said that, my first thought was that's what your grandfather instilled. Even if this makes you uncomfortable, if you do something,
Did you freeze?
there you go.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Can you see
Did
me?
I
Okay.
freeze? Okay.
Yeah, you froze for a moment there.
Okay.
So I was saying that was the training or the thing that your grandfather was telling you. Hey,
Mhm.
don't tell because I know you don't like this. It's going to inconvenience me. It's going to make my life hard. So forget
Mhm.
about what you need. And I think that people don't recognize those messages
Uh-huh.
can have a huge impact for a long time on children.
You know what? I never attributed those two. I never
Mhm.
put those two together, but it makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely perfect sense.
So you start to recognize I'm putting myself on the back burner to make sure other people are okay. And it's okay to stop doing that. What other things did you have to release?
I had to release the fear of trying new things.
Mm,
Um, just you just have. I had to get out of my box of this is what I can do and this is all I'm doing and I'm not trying anything else. And
right.
that to release that, I had to. So I've been married 12 years, but probably only within the last 2 or 3. Now I love my husband. My husband loves me. When I had any issues, but I have really just opened my heart
Mm.
to let him love me.
Oh, girl. I want to know what that is. As you said that, what did that feel like? I could see a shift in you. What did that feel like as you said that?
I am not gonna cry on this show. It feels really free.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
It feels really free.
I love it. Karen says she not crying, y'all. Just tell Karen, just whisper to Karen, you already crying and it's okay. Y'all just let her know it's okay. It's okay, Karen. If someone's watching this and they are um trying to heal from this, maybe they've never told anybody, or maybe they're still in this angry phase or
Mm.
suppression phase, or they're not going through this, can you give them some words of wisdom and some things that could help them on that journey?
Oh, I'm gonna always say it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna always say it's not your fault. I'm gonna always say find someone you trust that you can talk to. And I'm going to say don't be ashamed to go
Yeah.
get help. Don't be ashamed to go get help because um, how the enemy works is he keeps us by ourselves and he keeps us quiet. And
Can you say that
so
again?
he keeps us by ourselves and he keeps us quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning he keep, because I just told you I bottled everything, I kept everything in. And so that was not doing anything but further promoting a cause that was not from heaven.
Right.
And so, there were people in my life, I've always been in choir, music, or whatever. And so I had a friend, Danny Withers. And when my pastor told me I need to go get some help, I came from a small town and I was like, I know that the medical profession says that, you know, you don't tell. I ain't trusting people in my town.
Right.
And so I had a friend who was the director of a choir that I was participating in. And I asked him, I said, do you know anybody not in this town? And he gave me the contact information. And so I went and I did what I needed to do to get some help from that person. And that's the counselor that stuck with me from the time I was 25 to like right after I got married.
Wow. Well, thank you, counselor, who stuck with Karen.
Yes, his name is Burks Williams, and he retired a few years ago, and I was so devastated when he retired. Oh my God, because that was like for me that was like my safe space to go talk.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, for me, if I ever needed to talk to him, I could,
Yeah.
and that was enough. I ain't called him not one time since he retired.
Just knowing that it was an option was powerful
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
So, Karen, for a lot of people after they've been sexually abused, they really don't trust. Okay, let me go back. They don't trust people in general, oftentimes, or they may sometimes they just don't trust the gender that abused them.
Okay.
Did you see a lot of that, like struggle to trust men or struggle to trust people in general?
Um, I think I opposite. I think I trusted people too quickly
Okay.
because I always wanted somebody to be my friend. I always wanted, to be included in the group. I always wanted to be, you know, that person.
So your need for approval was stronger than, hey,
Mhm.
I don't want to trust. Like, no, I want all the love. I want all the approval.
And that's what led me to all the bad decisions with relationships.
Mm,
I didn't really, now as crazy as it sounds, I didn't have no whole bunch of friends, in
mm-hmm.
high school or anything because I never could quite fit in. Just couldn't.
Yeah.
So so yeah, and then I had such a structured childhood that there was not a whole lot of room for that high school boyfriend or anything like that. So when I got to college, there was a little bit more freedom, and yeah. So
Okay. So, Karen, people are on here and I don't know if you can see comments. They're saying it's okay to release your tears of joy. We're proud of you. Your soul shift sisters are here encouraging you. And I want to echo those sentiments that yes, we are so proud of you for not just sharing, but going through the journey to healing, because I think it's just such a beautiful, powerful story. And I've been honored and blessed. And obviously I didn't see all of this, but to be a part and witnessing pieces of you putting things together. So I thank you again for sharing. What would you say, where would you say you are in the healing journey?
ooh, I'm like, I say this every time I shift to another level, and I'm like, I don't think it could get any better than this, and then it does. So to say that it's completed, I don't think I don't think I can say that because there's always a higher level.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
that does make sense. There's greater freedom every shift.
Every shift.
So who was the old Karen and who is this Karen? And we won't even say like the final version, just who is the Karen that's talking to us today, because we know there are even higher levels and greater freedom for you.
Um, Karen now is a whole lot more confident. Karen now, I love the Lord God more now than I ever have. I realized that I am special, but my situation was not unique. That there are so many more people
Mm-hmm.
out there that need to go through the healing process that I've gone through. And because I was blessed enough to come out on the other side, okay, that this is one of the first things that needs to happen is me starting to share more, me starting to whatever God says to share, whatever God says to do, that I'll say it, I'll do it, and Karen of even 5 years ago would probably have said, yeah, I'll share my story if you ask, or
Mm-hmm.
if it's in a confined space,
Right, right.
if it's one on one. Now I'm out here on Beyonce's internet telling everybody everything. I would never have done that
Yeah.
before. I would have been, you know, being a minister of music was a leap of faith
Mm-hmm.
because I had never done anything like that. But that would have been probably as far as I would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
I would never have thought I can open a business. I would never have thought I can sell purses and sell makeup. I would never have thought because we're in this project with Coach Sean. I would have never thought that I have any kind of knowledge in me that could come out to be an ebook
Mm.
because I know so many people that know way more than I do.
Yeah.
You know, got whole advanced degrees. You know, in the same field, but as she says, there's 7 billion people on the planet. I just need to find the people that need me.
Right.
But I would never have thought that there was a need for me 5 years ago. So that's kind of the difference in Karen now versus Karen then, is that I see that there's no limits to what I can do. If God says go do this, then I got to try.
Now, Karen, you talked some about, I think it was actually before we started the official interview, but you talked about being mad a lot, or your mom said
My
talking about
mom
you
used to
being
ask me
mad.
why I was mean.
Mean, that was the word, mean.
Oh, mean.
How did you get over the meanness? What did you do to stop being so mean?
Girl, am I not? I'm not mean now, am I?
Not to me, look. We'll ask Stephen later on if you mean at the house, but to me,
Don't
you are a
ask him. Don't
sweetheart.
ask him. Not a reliable source. I think that I used to be. I think she was saying that I was very snappy, and that I would like respond in this kind of way.
Yeah.
Because I do remember kind of always being like this, because I had to protect myself, because I didn't feel safe in some spaces.
Right.
And so I think that I have learned that I won't necessarily guard myself as much unless I see a need, to guard. And then if it's a need to guard, then I'll probably just remove myself from the situation. But I don't just automatically go in
defense mode. Right.
Right.
Well, what you were describing, some of that was just even some of the symptoms of depression, irritability, anger, frustration, sadness, loneliness. Like all of that is just,
it's just
depression and anxiety and feeling like I have to be on guard all the time. Which again can definitely come as a result of some trauma that you experienced for a long time. What was different for you, Karen, after it was over, after grandfather either passed away or moved out? I don't know which happened first.
He moved out.
Okay, he moves out. It stops.
It stopped.
Did you shift? Like, did you go back to being happier, or was it kind of like it's been done?
It was just always, because I'm thinking back now. It's always this like I felt like I could go to sleep and be okay, right? Like I felt like I could just go to sleep and just, I felt like I could, go in the shower and there.
Yeah.
So there was a measure, I think it was a measure of relaxedness that, and that, because by the time I'm 13, my baby sister's 3, and my parents are like, yeah, y'all are big enough to be at the house by yourself. So it was okay to be at the house by myself, because I wasn't at the house by myself, but with him watching me. So there was some relaxation, but there was still this thing about, what's wrong with me. There was still that. It was still that, even though he wasn't there.
That makes sense. You mentioned something about forgiveness. You said, I was able to forgive him. There is actually controversy even in the mental health field about forgiveness and the role of forgiveness. I'm a proponent for forgiveness. I believe it frees us. But there are other people in the profession that disagree, and that's okay. But can you talk about why that was important for you?
It helped me to let go of all the anger. Like, it helped when I finally, because I had to go through the forgiveness exercise like a bunch of times regarding him. But then that final time, it just helped me to not be angry, to just, I was just at a place of peace, because I think I finally realized that people who do that, they battle their own demons, right? And my therapist told me, he was like, Now you know you wasn't the only one that he did this to. Because I was walking around in life thinking he didn't do
Mm,
this to nobody else. Now, to my knowledge, nobody else in my family.
yeah.
But, and I could have been the only one. But the possibility exists that I wasn't.
Right.
Um, and so it just to forgive him and let God deal with everything that he had done in life that was wrong, it just took a whole weight off of me.
Hmm.
Because I was banishing him to all kind of places that was not heaven before I forgave. And then it was like, what if you get to heaven and he there?
Oh.
Wait a minute.
Right, right. That's real.
And so the process that Holy Spirit took me through with that, when I had that thought,
Hmm.
that's what facilitated full forgiveness.
Hmm. Now, I love the fact that you said I had to do the forgiveness exercise a lot of times. And I think sometimes people think that forgiveness is, or that whole process is always just oh, I forgave it. I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm not going to
Yeah.
feel angry anymore. But it really can be multiple steps, or I thought I had forgiven and I did, but my emotions are still catching up to that decision. That's what I tell people. If I shoot you and you forgive me, that's great, but you're still going to feel some pain and you still have to have a healing of wherever I shot you. And so that
Mhm.
healing process doesn't always happen with that decision to forgive.
Right.
So again, I'm so thankful for your journey to healing. I'm so thankful for the increased freedom that is still out there for you. Uh,
Hmm.
it just gets better and better, and I love that. See your smile, to see your countenance. Um, yeah, you the rock star, and I appreciate you coming. Karen, you have a lot of stuff going on. Tell the people how they can support you. You mentioned your business with the purses. Tell people how they can find you and get them some really cute purses and all of that stuff.
So I started Karen's Carry-Alls, and right now I have a business page of the same name, Karen's Carry-Alls, spelled with a Karry, alls. And so you can look there. I do have a website, karenscarryalls.com. However, it is not updated right now. So,
So we'll do
um,
that. Y'all check back in a few weeks or months.
right, right, right. I'm gonna probably do a clearance sale next week because I do have some product that's not on the website. I do have some product here that I that I'm wanting to move out, and so next week I'll be doing the clearance sale, probably going live from my page.
Okay. And
Um,
so they can just find you with this name, Karen M. Booth, on
mhm.
Facebook. You can find Karen and follow her. What day will you be doing that?
Next Thursday is the target date.
Okay. So next Thursday, I'll tune into
Eight
Karen's
thirty.
page to
Yes.
get some cute purses and anything else going on that you want to share.
I started. I had started selling cosmetics products with a. It's a pretty cool company, and one of their foundation is a place where people who have been sexually abused
Mm,
can go to start their healing process.
wow.
So 10% of the profits from Unique, spelled YOUNIQUE, go to fund that, because once when they have the I want to say camp, but I can't think, the retreat. That's what it is. When they have the retreat, all you have to do is get there. Everything else is taken care of.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's kind of near and dear to me. So that's why I do that. So I'll I'll put my website there. It's the skin booth, DASKINBOOTH.com. If you use that link, you can go and get like all this face came from there.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. You guys give a shout out to Karen, give hearts, give fire. Thank you for sharing. I do have a couple announcements. You guys know every Thursday we're going to be right back here. So next Thursday we will be here with another topic. Next Thursday we're actually going to be talking about the journey from domestic violence or healing from domestic violence. And so we're talking. I told them we're coming kind of hard on 2024. Last week we talked about ADHD, and a lot of people got a lot of benefit from that. This week I think a lot of people were inspired and really empowered by your story, Karen. And next week we're going to be talking about domestic violence. I want people to know that there is a way out, right? The other thing is, if you are looking for a counselor or a coach, reach out to me. If I know you personally and I can't be your counselor, again, I can help you find someone or give you some resources so that you can find someone. But don't go through the struggle by yourself and thinking that you have to stay alone. That is the trick. And I also, last announcement for me, I have a program. I'm really, really excited about this program so that it is for single women. So single women, it is called the Wholeness Path, Whole Heart New Start. And what it is a 6-month program for single women who are wanting to really prepare their hearts for love. And as you shared in your journey, trauma can cause us to be so guarded or so hard or so everything, that even if we find people that love us, sometimes we're not ready to really even receive that love in a beautiful way. So if you are a single woman, and when I say single, I mean unmarried. That doesn't mean you're not in a relationship, because we do have people registered that are in a relationship and they say, I want my heart to be ready for this. So if you know of somebody, or if you are that somebody, you register. I will put the link in the comment section, or you can go to my page and find the link. It is a ongoing group, a 6-month group, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of stuff. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to probably have some tears. We're going to have some aha moments, some uh-oh moments, all of that. And so if you want to be a part of this, women are signing up. You don't want to miss it. If you know you want to be in a relationship and you're kind of like, go ahead and sign up, because I'm telling you, it's going to have some great stuff. So again, thank you guys so much. Give another shout out for Karen. Thank you so very much. Your story is powerful. I hope you continue to not only share, but empower people through this story, because I promise you, so many people need to know that healing is not only available, it's possible, one step at a time. Any parting words before we go, Karen?
First of all, thank you for having me. When you asked me, I was like, oh, I felt, just totally honored. But again, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to realize you are not to blame. It was not your fault. And go find somebody that can help you process through your healing.
Yes. Thank you, Karen. I love you. I will see you really soon, probably on class or group or pop-up something. Yes. So again, everybody, thank you for joining us. Even though we are ending, go ahead and share this video, because there are people who still need to see it, still need to be inspired, still need to be empowered, that they are not alone, that it's not their fault, and that healing is available and possible. Thank you so much. If you've experienced sexual abuse and you want to heal, I encourage you to reach out to a counselor, a professional that is trained to work with you and to help you tear down some of those negative mindsets or, just incorrect ways of thinking, and really reintroduce you to who you are. So again, we love you. We'll see you right back here next Thursday on Minding My Mental Health. Bye-bye.